Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to be doing my January wrap up and talking about all the books that I read in January. I did a couple of rereads this month and a couple of new books. A lot of these books were really great, and some were kind of in the middle of the road, but I would say I had a pretty good reading month overall, and none of them were particularly atrocious or anything like that. So, we're off to a good start in 2026. So, I'm going to be doing this video a little bit differently. So, I'm going to be rating the books that I read from worst to best, but I'm going to be doing the rereads and rating those, and then rating the new books that I read because I already reread some of these books, so I know that they're good. So I don't think it's fair to compare to like the new books that I read. So I'm going to be starting with the rereads from worst to best. Um, the first set of books I'm going to be placing in the same tier and category because they're part of a series, and that is the audiobooks again for the Laura Ingalls Wilder series, the first three books. So the first three books are Little House in the Big Woods, Farmer Boy, and Little House on the Prairie, all by Laura Ingalls Wilder. So these books are, I would say, semi autobiographical stories about a young girl who lives out in her family with her family, her mom, dad, her older sister Mary, and her youngest sister Carrie. They live during the, I want to say, late 1800s. So I would say, I think Little House in the Big Woods takes place in the 1880s, I think. And it is basically a slice of life of what it's like to live out on the frontier. And Little House on the Prairie kind of gets into more of the weeds of what it was like living out west. So the first these books were meant for children as well. So they probably read around like the 4th through 6th grade level, I want to say. So these are great for kids wanting to learn more about history, I think. So these are very cozy sort of books. They just kind of talk about her day to day life living out in the woods. So in the first book, Little House in the Big Woods, she starts to sort of recount her life in Wisconsin with her family. There's a lot of talk about what it's like to survive out in the woods, right? She talks a lot about how Pa goes out to get meat for them. They make their own food, they make their own clothes, and all that sort of stuff. But it's written in a way that's so nostalgic and cozy because, it is written from it is written from a child's point of view, so a lot of the hardships that she experiences, she kind of glosses over kind of or really takes them as sort of fun adventures. You know, a lot of the things that she struggles with are little kid struggles, right? Getting jealous of her older sister for being better than she is, um, not not wanting to sit still and not do any fun stuff on Sundays when they were supposed to be quiet. It's a lot of this slice of life routine. So I think for a lot of people that can be kind of boring, but for me, I read these when I was also a young child, and I think they just brought a lot of comfort to me because Laura Ingalls Wilder writes in such a comforting way almost. I don't really even know how to explain it, but the way that she describes Pa's singing and playing the fiddle at nighttime for all of them, and just them huddled around the fire and all of that, it was just so cozy. And she made it seem like they had a happy family, and that closeness, I think, really brought me a lot of comfort when I was a kid. Now, as an adult, I read these books with kind of a different lens, and it's still comforting to me and nostalgic, but obviously there is that taint of looking at through an adult lens. So, for example, I think I really liked Little House in the Big Prairie even more than Little House in the Big Woods, because it really does document a lot more of the nitty gritty of trying to move out west. Like, I don't even know how I thought this was like a fun time back when I read it as a child, because the family literally almost died crossing the creek with their big wagon. they contract malaria. Their neighbor almost dies while he is trying to build them a well with their father, and her mother also gets hurt trying to help her father build like log cabin with them. So a lot of dangers out there, and I understand why people didn't really live very long back then. But at the same time, Laura has such a curiosity and wonder about the world that's hard to be mad at, honestly. And really, I really like that she really says how people thought and talked back then. I don't even know how she remembers all the stuff that her mom and dad talk about, but she really says it in a way that was how it was back then. And unfortunately, her mom and dad really did talk a lot about Indians in a pretty racist. Ma, had some very time appropriate but racist things to say about Indians, and it was kind of hypocritical that she was in their territory and yet she talked about the Indians wanting to leave them alone, right? But I did like that Laura didn't cover up that or make it more sanitized for kids. I think that it's a good learning experience for kids and a good way of asking them more about what the culture was like back then and, you know, how we can improve it from it. So that was that. But again, I did really like the audiobooks. I am going to continue reading on with this series. I find a lot of comfort in Laura's spirit, I think. And it just kind of reminds you again, like I talked about in my last video, that, they didn't really have that much back then. And yet Laura found a way to make it work. Laura found a way to make the most of a situation. So that's that. I went on sort of like a deep dive into her story and her husband's story after I read these books. And I went on a deep dive on her biography and her husband's biography after I read this. They kind of lived a very hard life after they got married, unfortunately. They were riddled. I think Almanzo, her husband, was riddled by sickness, and they lost a lot of money on their farm the first few years. So, not great, not great. But I did like that, she eventually tried to earn more money by writing in the newspaper, I think, and she ended up making money by writing for a local newspaper, I think it was. So, all that to say is that these books are best read in the bubble that they're written in. And as a side note, I think Pa, in her real life, I think someone wrote like a biography about Pa and their family and all the behind the scenes, and he wasn't as great of a dad as Laura made him out to be. But again, right? She wrote this as from a child's point of view. So she probably wanted everyone to see Pa in a good light. All that I read, 3 books. I will be continuing on with the series. The best reread that I read this month was Harry Potter. Oh, this is a big book. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the interactive edition by J.K. Rowling. First of all, let me show you the cover of this. Isn't that gorgeous? And I also, it's an interactive edition, so there's pop ups and everything. So let me see if I can show you one. Oh my gosh. I don't know how this is gonna work. Can I do it? Okay. Like that. So beautiful. So that's the best reread I read this month. I am trying to work my way through the Harry Potter series again as long as these interactive editions come out because I'm collecting all of them. I am loving my reread of this series, and I think honestly the 4th book is my favorite book of the series so far. rereading it as an adult. I think I last read these books maybe a few years ago, I want to say, but I absolutely love this book. It really does mark the end of Harry's and Friends' innocence, right? And J.K. Rowling introduces a lot of mature themes into this book that really don't hit until this book, right? So she talks a lot about how wizards treat other species, right? And there's a lot of talk about how they treat giants, how they treat muggles, how they treat house elves, especially in this book. And it is the start of Hermione's campaign into helping house elves, which is honestly a very interesting theme to include in a children's book. And I really enjoyed how she approached that. She also talks a lot about power and what families will do to keep power and what other people without power will do to gain that power, even if it means associating with what they perceive as powerful beings, but ultimately not so great people. So I think that all of those themes were woven so well into this book. They were, I don't know if I understood it as extensively as I do as an adult, but just based on what is presented in the story, I thought it was written so well. And it really brings into question all of this. It really is a reflection on the world as it is. And I think that's just what makes Harry Potter so interesting, is that the world, the muggle world that he lives in, and the magical world all blend kind of seamlessly together. But yeah, at the same time, we're all humans, and the wizarding community makes the same mistakes as the muggle community, and it's a safe place to kind of explore those themes. I Aside from all of that, I really liked just the Triwizard Tournament in general. I think that it's just a unique and creative concept. I do think that the reasons why they all just sort of trusted this cup and made Harry participate in this deathly games is a bit questionable, but we're just gonna roll with it, right? Um, I also really liked, against all this backdrop and magic and creativity, there is still this underlying current of and theme of what it's like to be a teenager. Harry develops his first crush, and there are issues with friends. As a side note, Ron is an absolute dick in this book. An absolute dick. I can't believe he would betray his friend like that and just think that Harry put his name in the Goblet of Fire. It's just kind of, I just like Ron less. I just like Ron less and less of the books as the books go on. That's another story for another day. But yeah, I don't really like Ron that much in this book. I just don't like Ron very much in this book. I really liked how the stakes grew higher in this book as well. I really liked how the very ending was actually very scary. Just seeing this dark being that we've been hearing about for the past three books come to life. And I think that this book is a masterpiece in build up, right? Because we've been building up for the past three books to having eventually, most likely, a Voldemort return. And I also really like that all the magical concepts that J.K. Rowling introduces in the first three books are incredibly inventive, and then they carry on throughout the rest of the series, and she continues to build upon these magical concepts and make them more complex and interesting as the books go on. But it all still makes sense. It doesn't come out of the blue, right? For example, her concept of animagia and how that relates to Rita Skeeter, how she made that a mystery, how she made that a plot point, and how she made that a concept in the book was just so well done, so creative. And I just cannot wait to read the rest of the series, honestly. So I just kind of miss these books. I miss the wonder and curiosity about the world that they brought up in me. And yeah, I just, I really enjoyed it. And those were all my rereads of the month. As you can see behind me, I am trying to collect all the books that I really, really enjoy. And I am going to be rereading the books before I put them on my shelf. And I only put books on my shelf that I think I am going to either reread or they're like a 4 or 5 stars. And those are the only reasons why I am going to buy a book. So so that's why my bookshelf, I just started, so that's why my bookshelves are a bit sparse. I really, really want a bookshelf that really encompasses who I am as a reader, and I only want to look at my bookshelf and see books that I really enjoy. So that's a kind of side tangent on my bookshelf. But let's move on to the books that I read that were new this month, from worst to best. So the first book I want to talk about, or this is more of a short story, is 7 Years from Home by Naomi Novik. This I talked a little bit about in my what I've currently been watching, reading, and loving. And if you want to check that out, that will be maybe in the end of the video. But it was my last video. I talked about this book. Essentially, this book is about two warring cultures. One of them is very Avatar like. They use a lot of the natural world to make their stuff, make their weapons, and they are warring with another culture who they are more technology based, right? So they have bombs, nukes, technology, and weapons that we more associate with the modern world. And our main character is sent to learn more about the native people on this planet. I won't tell you exactly what she does because I think the joy is in finding out through the short story. But she is kind of sent to learn more about the native people and, figure out how she can help. Is the best way I can describe it. This short story, I wish, was a book because everything about it was so fascinating. I love the way that Naomi Novik delves deep into how the native people make their weapons, how they genetically engineer the animals and clothes and everything to kind of fit to their way of life. It was just so very interesting to read about. And the story itself was also very interesting as well. The characters, although, it's a short story, so they don't really get that much depth, they really do get a lot of depth for the short amount of time that they have. And I think it's just a mark of a great short story that this world feels so lived in, even though I've only read about it in a couple pages. So I totally recommend that. The next official book that I read is Sula by Toni Morrison. This book is also quite short, um, but it doesn't pack any less of a punch. This book is about two Black American girls who become friends in this town, and it's basically about their relationship with each other. But Toni Morrison does go into their family dynamics as well and goes into like their mother's story and everything like that. So this book was good. I just wish it was a bit longer. I did really enjoy the character of Sula. I think I was reading the foreword by Toni Morrison, and she wanted to convey what she wanted to write. It's like she does not make many good choices, and she sort of represents the opposite of what Nell was meant to be. What is it like for a person, especially a woman, to live outside the conventional rules of society? Does it make her happier? Is her life fulfilled because she lives outside these conventions? And what does a female friendship look like outside these boundaries and rules as well? And she sort of explores that throughout the book. Sula and Nell, the other main character, is two opposite sides of the spectrum. Sula is living mostly for herself, and any action is not true to her, she will kind of discard. And Nell is the opposite. I want to say Nell has been brought up by a more proper conventional way of living, right? Her mom taught her that the most important thing that she can do is get married and have kids, and she has kind of led her life following these rules. And they both of them form this very intimate friendship where they bring out the best in each other and they can really be themselves. I really think that Toni Morrison explores like gender dynamics really well in this book as well, exploring the concept of the power dynamic in marriage and the way that our friends can hurt us. I really liked how intimately Toni Morrison explores female friendship, how these two opposites can find solace and comfort in one another, even though they hurt each other, and that enduring bond that they have from living with in this town, right? And Toni Morrison also explores that how are these people the way they are from the way that their parents were, right? And it kind of explores that generational personality and passing on of whatever parents had at the time, right? And that is something that was very well done in this book. I also liked that Toni Morrison explores a lot of the gender dynamics in this book as well. Nell's husband is it's hard for him to find a job as a black man this book takes place in the 1960s, yeah, in the 1960s. So he marries out of a desperation to have someone always be supportive of him, have someone always be there for him, and only then can he with a goal, with someone to that he feels that he can support, can he continue to go on and find a job. And I thought that concept was also very interesting as well. I do wish that their friendship was honestly explored even but I do understand that in this short book, she did write as much as she probably could. I still really enjoyed it. I just think it needed to be a bit longer, and I do wish we got to find out more about their friendship in the latter years and what kind of happened to them. So I really enjoyed that. The and I think I will be probably reading more of Toni Morrison. I don't know if Sula is her best work. I really do want to read Beloved and The Bluest Eye, but that will be later. And the last book that I read, the best book that I read in January is The Last Hour of Gan by R. Lee Smith. This is a difficult book to talk about and kind of controversial in a way, but I will try to explain my feelings about it as best as I can. So, let's start off with a summary. So, this book is about a woman named Amber. She lives in a future Earth. How far in the future, I don't really know. It's sort of presented as a m- more dystopian type of world. Everyone is out for themselves. There's not a lot of food to go around, etc., etc. She lives with her sister Nicole and her mother. Her mother is a prostitute, and her and their main source of income. Her mother dies at the beginning of the book, and Amber has to figure out how to make money for her and her sisters to survive. Her solution is to join this space program where them and a another group of people are going to go off into space and colonize another part of a planet that they were meant to go to. And so they receive a stipend through this program in order for them to go and start human lives over on that planet. And on the way to that planet, they actually get shipwrecked or space wrecked or whatever you could say, and they crash land onto another planet that they were not meant to go to. But there is no way for them to go back to Earth or send any sort of communication on Earth. So they kind of have to figure out how to survive on this new planet, which leads to disagreements between how to do so. And they encounter this new race of people on this planet, people um, who are essentially lizards. Yep, they're lizard people. And Amber actually falls in love with one of the lizard people, lizard man world. And that's kind of where the gist of what happens in this book. I have conflicting feelings about this book, but in the end, I think it was my favorite because it made me think so much. And this book is what a lot of people classify it as a romance, but it is not a romance in the traditional way that most sci-fi romances are written. If I had to make a comparison, the most accurate comparison I can give is what Outlander is to historical romance, is what The Last Hour of Gan is to sci fi romance. So both of these books defy a lot of conventions of their genre, right? Outlander and The Last Hour again, first of all, they do so much research. There's so much excellent world building. This excellent world building extends to the lizards as well. I'm just gonna call them lizards, okay? I don't really want to dive deep into what to call them. But a lot of sci-fi romance, right? They make the alien love interest, if there is an alien love interest, just people that just look like men but with a six pack, but they just have like a weird tail or they're blue or something, right? But essentially their form is human. In this book, Arlie Smith makes them makes the lizard actually seem like a different species. Like they don't really look anything like humans, and their culture is different, their religion is different, their language is different. So when our main character and our love interest meet, they don't know anything about each other. And in fact, you can feel how alien the other character feels, which I personally really liked because it really shows that this author goes just went above and beyond in creating something that can seem realistic but so alien. And I honestly think it makes the romance stronger because there is no physical attraction between them. Eventually, obviously, there is, but in the beginning, there is no physical attraction between them. They have to really get to learn about each other, learn about one another, and I think that just makes their dynamic so much more interesting to read about than than traditional dynamics between a couple in a traditional sci-fi romance, right? So I really enjoyed that. I also really liked that the romance is so strong because they are such different people at the very beginning, and they disagree with one another quite a bit. Amber is an atheist, and our other main character is I don't know what his name is. Maroka is the love interest, right? His job is sort of a cross between like a policeman and a priest. So he delivers judgment, but he is also the moral judge in this world, and he's really a high rank and in his society as well. So he is very religious. He does things only because God tells him to do it, right? I really love their conversations between them about religion. And religion is actually a really big component of this book as well. How religion can lead to And she asks a lot of questions about belief and faith, and there is no right answer, right? In the end of the book, and I don't care if this is a spoiler or not, Amber does not essentially start believing in God or anything like that, and he doesn't necessarily become an atheist, right? But they both have more balanced views of other person's life, both respect each other's opinions, and really they really come to understand and get to know the other person because of it. And I think it's so beautiful. It's really so beautiful. I love their dynamic as well, and they are just so sweet. They're just everything in this world as well. In Morocco's society, women are not treated very well, and in Morocco's world, women are treated horribly, like horribly. And he has to go undergo a lot of growth into figuring out how to treat um, just people better and challenging him on his faith as well. So, and we meet other characters as well that we explore the lens of religion through. We really explore how the people that we look up to who are religious leaders can betray us. Like, what is faith? What is belief? Again, do we use that faith in a way that serves us? Do we use religion for comfort? Do we use religion to understand the world around us? And the ending kind of blew my mind too, and really kind of brings all these questions to a head. There's also this story of Amber trying to get her people to a safe area so that they can survive. There's a lot of disagreements on it. People on the ship react and treat Amber horribly as well. There's there's a lot of horrible stuff happening in this book, and they're trying to survive that. The reason why I have such conflicting feelings about this book is because of the excessive sexual violence. Now, it is a testament to this book that I read it all the way through, because usually if there is such excessive and graphic sexual violence at this frequently, I would have I would have stopped this book long ago and never thought about it again. But I guess I sort of trusted Arlie Smith to have her take me along. She knows what she researched. She knows what kind of story she wanted to write. In the end, I do think the sexual violence was still a little gratuitous and at times moderately to severely gratuitous. But I, oh, I think it did serve its purpose, but I didn't need that much. I really didn't. And I think it does really explore a lot of good concepts with the sexual violence. But again, I don't think we needed that much. I also think this book was a little repetitive as well. And the side characters don't really change all that much, and they will kind of do anything and everything to get what they want. So sometimes it was really hard to read because this book is like 800 pages, and some of these characters are just atrocious and insufferable. So if you can't get behind that, it's going to be really hard to read, as well as all these as well as what I mentioned about the sexual violence. It's going to be difficult to read. I don't really know how I got through it. I don't know if this is a book I could ever reread. But again, it is a book that really defies genre conventions of either science fiction or romance. And I think the blend of everything together just really worked for me. I have never read a book like this before. Never, ever, ever in my life. And it was so thought provoking and insightful. And just for that, and the world building, and just for all those three combined, I think this book is amazing. And it really, really takes a lot of courage to write a book like this. Like, this is a book that not everyone will jive with, but that's okay. That's okay. It's a hard read in more ways than one. And but I really appreciate that. I really appreciate when books go above and beyond. I really appreciate when books and authors are creative but also have intention behind that creation. And this book does all of that. And I don't know if there will ever be a book like it. So just for that alone, I've read so many books in my life, and we've read a wide, varied scope of books. It kind of becomes hard to find things that are new and things that bring creative ideas, especially the ideas part, ideas into these books. And this book does exactly that. And it reminds me of the reason why I read it is to learn it and but also to immerse myself into another world. And yeah, I guess that's the theme of this video, just wonder and curiosity. And yeah, I hope to bring that into my next month as well. Next month, I think will be a more lighthearted month, sort of. I say that as I just read a really sad memoir, but I think that February is going to be a good reading month too, as it already has been. So let me know what books that you read in January, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.